This is a mini episode where Tashira and I are answering questions from our e-journal around defining love at a big age.
And I am back here in the background. Hey, friend.
Hey, friend, hey.
Getting ready to ask Margo
What is she going to ask me?
some deep, dark, intense questions about love at a big age. Y'all get ready. Share your thoughts on societal expectations surrounding age in relationships. And have those thoughts changed over time?
So, yes. And I think the main way that they've changed over time is, for me, this kind of metamorphosis from feeling the need to be partnered to make me whole to a place of being in partnership as part of my whole. You know, Tashara, you've talked a bit in some episodes about feeling like you were bad at relationships. I also felt that way as a young person and really deeply wanted that connection with someone. I really wanted someone to do life with. I really deeply wanted a big family. And I was very afraid that I would never have that. And I had a very serious relation. I mean, now it's like funny, not to minimize how serious it was. It was a very serious relationship in college that extended past college. We lived together after college for a year and we broke up, which I instigated when I started law school. And I remember having it was very hard because it was very hard because we were living together and then not living together and we had a dog and all these things. So it was very complicated at a very young age. But I remember at 24 saying out loud, and like, I'm going to laugh when I say this, but I truly believed it. I'm making the decision to be alone for the rest of my life rather. Stop it.
I'm sorry. Go ahead, girl. This is serious. Go ahead.
It's ridiculous, but it shows where I was.
Yeah.
And also, it shows that I did it.
Yeah. But you know what I'm thinking about, friend? Maybe you were a trad wife before the TikTok phenomenon. If you thought at 24 you had to be married and starting a family. So this idea that this kind of like psychology takes hold of young people,
or that by not being partnered at 24, I was going to be a spinster.
Absolutely.
Anyway, fast forward, I am happily partnered and have a pretty big family. And my relationship with my husband has evolved drastically over the years, I think, and in a lot of beautiful ways, and I think, and hard ways. And I think one of the things that has become very clear, especially in this season, is that we are a unit and we're a strong unit, but we are also independent planets. And I am not responsible for him. He is not responsible for me. And we are on our own journeys and journeying together too. And so I think that is something that I don't think people talk a lot about, particularly in cis hetero marriages, right? There's this, well, people don't really talk about marriage, I think, and in a way that's transparent, and how it changes. And I think for me and Josh, we met when we were 24 years old. No, I was 25, he was 24. Okay, so 24. I am almost 43, he is 42 years old. We have had 3 children. We have lost loved ones. We have had career changes. We've moved 11 times. We have had health scares. We have had births and deaths. And how, like all of the things we talk about on this channel, how those things are not going to impact us in our evolution, it is impossible, right? You just can't anticipate how life is going to life and how life is going to impact you. And so one of the things that we are really working on together is, how do we want a life together and hold each other? And how do we want to let each other live and flourish on our own? And I think that has been a journey that continues. I think it's also been something that has been hard for him to see me struggle. He often feels like he's responsible for me or responsible for my feelings. And we're working really hard on being able to separate and just sit kind of sometimes with sadness. Um, that's what I need. And sometimes he needs that too. And sit in joy, but kind of sit with those feelings as opposed to being the person that solves everything for the other person.
Can I ask a question? Because I think what I see is that you and Josh beautifully do what you've just said, which is hold space for the individual in a marriage. That has to be difficult.
Yes.
What advice would you have for people in the very practical ways you've been able to find joy and happiness as a mother and as a wife, and also outside of those things?
So I think for me, some practical advice was getting really clear about what I wanted. So this is something that you've said too, related to other things, right? Getting really clear about what I wanted, both in my home, in my body, in my life, and in my family. What of that was within my control? Right. Is that something within my space? Is that something within my schedule? Is that something within what we're eating? Who's coming into our home? How we're socializing? How we're moving in the world? And what is out of my control? And what are the things that I can do for myself that make myself happy? And what do I need to do or want to do? Not need to do, want to do in partnership. I think the other really practical thing that I would say, and it's hard, real hard, is not having specific expectations as to how my partner is going to respond to me, to the world. And so I think this last season of our life has been full of a lot of joy and a lot of challenge with my health, with family health, with the world. And it, Josh and I have not responded to everything the same way. That's very hard, or at least it has been hard in my mind because I have been raised, I developed to think that in a marriage, you're just going to agree on everything. But how is that a possible expectation?
You're not the same person.
So we disagree. We agree to disagree. And we disagree sometimes passionately about, I mean, I would say we're politically aligned, but look, he's a white dude who moves in the world as a white dude. And I am not that. And there are certain things that, look, we all have privileges associated with our identity. I have a lot as well. And so there are things that we don't agree about. And I am working very hard to divorce myself from this idea that if we don't agree, something's wrong with our relationship.
That's deep. That is profound.
But it's hard because, and I don't know what the data point was because it's like someone can say that. And then there's some things that are just like, I could never personally be with someone who's pro-life, right? That are just so fundamental to your being. Like someone who's not a feminist.
Yeah.
Someone who is anti-immigrant or doesn't believe in a social safety net, right? Like those things that I deeply believe in as a fundamental part of how I want to move in the world. And then there are other things where I'm still questioning, right? So social policies that maybe we don't agree with, or world politics, international relations. And that's hard. But I think we were talking about at some point, like a lot of marriages broke up after the 2016 election.
Yeah.
And what's that point at which you're like, we're so misaligned?
That there's no coming back from.
Yeah, there's no
Anchor.
But I also think the concept of being aligned on everything is a setup. I just don't think it's realistic. I mean, could anyone be aligned, like even in a friendship, right? You're not aligned on everything. In a parent-child relationship, you're certainly not aligned on everything. In a grandchild relationship, you're not aligned on everything. In a business relationship, you're not aligned on everything. Tension and discussion is what makes our world evolve. And why, in this context, I had this understanding of a successful marriage being one where we were aligned and wanted the exact same things at the exact same time. I don't know where I got that message.
I'm in the background raising my hand. Pick me, please. I think it goes back to the unrealistic fairy tales that we're all told about love from a young age. Probably has the same root of why you thought at 24 you were going to be a spinster.
Right. And so it has been very helpful for me to just be like, you know what? Even in specific moments, like we are not agreeing right now. I'm going to extract myself from this conversation or this moment and go do something for myself. Or I need you to do this for me right now, and vice versa. And I think that sometimes our partners don't know what we need. How would they know? So, in an effort to be helpful, sometimes we're not helpful as partners. And actually, the most helpful thing we can do to our partners is tell them what we need.
Share your thoughts on societal expectations surrounding age and relationships. Have those changed over time?
I think the other aspect of this question that I haven't really talked about, but I've talked about in other places and we will talk about, is parenting and the parent-child relationship and this idea of this phase. I am in it right now with 3 small children, and it is so beautiful and so full and can be very difficult. And there is nothing more important to me than them. And I also know that they are independent beings in this world. And the best thing I can do for them is to help them be resilient. And my definition isn't exclusively coming from me parenting them. And that messaging around mothering as the definition that should be the one that fulfills your mind, soul, and heart is also bullshit. This is my thing that I am working through, that like I can still be a good mom and do other things and also need time away from them and not feel guilty about it. I think that is something that I'm modeling for them, so that when they move in the world as young women and older women, that they can figure out what they need and want and do it without apologizing.
Period. That's a wrap, friend.
Was that okay?
It's perfect. Thanks for listening to Justice. We hope you enjoyed this episode. If you'd like to learn more about our podcast, be sure to check us out on our website at justicepodcast.com. You can also reach out to us there if you want to be featured on the show, or if you have a business or a product that you think would be a good fit for our audience. Thanks again for listening.